Third temple finally being constructed. Rapture begins. What are the implications of the construction of a third temple for the future of humanity? Recent reports suggest that the construction may be about to begin, signaling the start of the rapture. This historic event could mark the beginning of the end, or a new beginning altogether, with significant implications for the world. In this exclusive video, we will explore the topic and try to understand the impact of the Third Temple's construction on our lives. Join us as we delve into this important issue and discuss what we can expect in the future. The Third Temple holds immense importance for some Jews who are actively working toward its construction, while others view it as a symbol of hope and inspiration in their daily lives. However, what exactly is the Third Temple, and does it have a literal or spiritual meaning? Additionally, what role does it play in our lifetime? This video delves into these questions, exploring the significance of the Third Temple in Jewish culture. For centuries, there has been considerable debate about Israel's potential reconstruction of a holy temple on the original site of the Temple Mount in Jerusalem. Some individuals who believe in the concrete fulfillment of biblical covenants with the Jews and the land of Israel regard the temple's reinstatement as an integral part of a promised destiny. Literal versus spiritual interpretation. There are claims that the biblical narratives regarding the construction of the Third Temple are excessively literal and are focused on spiritual promises rather than a physical desire to rebuild the temple of God. According to some, Christ represents the new temple, and the church has taken the place of the temple. Just as when Jesus stated that the temple would be destroyed and rebuilt in 3 days, he was referring to his death and subsequent resurrection after 3 days. The role of the temple and Messiah in the Messianic era. Jeremiah's presentation of the new covenant for Israel describes the Messianic era as a time when all of Israel would be saved and brought back to the land of Israel. According to this scripture, during this time, the temple would be rebuilt and the Levite priesthood would be reestablished, with a just descendant of David ruling from Jerusalem. The importance of the temple in biblical prophecy. The Temple of God in Jerusalem holds a significant place in biblical and prophetic history. Numerous biblical prophecy scholars are intrigued by the timing of the reconstruction of the Second Temple, which was destroyed in 70 AD and remains missing in Jerusalem. Some believe that the temple must be rebuilt before the final sacrifices can cease, as foretold in Daniel 12:11. What does the Bible say about the Third Temple, and when might it be constructed? Understanding the history and significance of the First and Second Temples in Jerusalem is essential in comprehending the Third Temple. King David's desire. Israel's King David is recognized for laying the foundation for constructing the first permanent temple as a tribute to the biblical deity. Even though God had instructed the Israelites to build a temporary tabernacle as they traversed through the wilderness, David expressed to the prophet Nathan that the Ark of God was housed in tent curtains while he lived in a cedar-sided home. However, God had not instructed them to build a cedar dwelling for him. While David wished to construct a permanent building for God, God prevented him from doing so. Instead, God promised to build David a house, symbolizing the permanence of David's reign, the succession of David's son, and the David family's decision to erect the house in God's honor. Solomon builds the Lord's house on Mount Moriah. King David's son Solomon fulfilled God's prophecy by constructing the Lord's house, also known as Solomon's Temple, on Mount Moriah in Jerusalem. After its completion during Solomon's reign, the temple became the primary place of worship for Israel, and it remained standing for almost 4 centuries until its destruction by the Babylonians in 586 BC. Rebuilding the temple in Jerusalem. History and prophecy. King Cyrus issued a decree permitting the Jews, who had been held captive in the Babylonian Empire for 70 years, to return to Jerusalem and rebuild the temple. This decree was by a prophecy that God had made through the prophet Isaiah many years before Cyrus's birth. In this prophecy, God declared that the one who would acknowledge Cyrus as my shepherd and he will do all that I please, would also proclaim to Jerusalem, "You will be rebuilt," and to the temple, "Your foundation will be laid." Isaiah 44:28. Despite facing opposition from neighboring groups and a lack of motivation among their people, the Jews commenced the reconstruction work immediately. The prophet Haggai warned them of the dire consequences of neglecting the project, questioning whether they would permit the temple to fall into decay while remaining in the comfort of their own homes. The temple was rebuilt on the same spot where it had previously stood, and served as a place of worship for many years until its destruction in 70 AD, as foretold in the book of Revelation. The Second Temple's history and fate. The Second Temple, also called the Temple of Zerubbabel, was erected while the governor of Judah, who shares the same name, was in charge. Though some sources attribute the temple's construction to Zerubbabel himself, others challenge this assertion. Nevertheless, the temple was standing when Jesus lived on earth. King Herod supervised extensive renovations on the temple, and it became known as Herod's Temple. This edifice endured for almost 6 centuries until the Romans demolished it in 70 AD. Preparing for the Third Temple reconstruction. The reconstruction of the temple holds immense importance for Orthodox Jews who believe that its restoration is critical to the world's redemption. Gershon Solomon, the director of the Temple Mount Faithful, leads protests at the temple site and oversees the construction of the stone corner for the Third Temple. This fringe organization's various initiatives aim to prepare Israeli society to accept and support the rebuilding of the temple. Biblical references to the Third Temple and End Times. The Third Temple is a topic that has piqued the interest of many, given the significant role that temples have played in ancient Israel's history. However, while the Bible may not offer a definitive answer, it does contain 3 references to another temple, 2 of which relate to physical temples, while the third is metaphorical. Furthermore, the book of Daniel predicts the end of sacrifices and an abominable desolation that precedes the end times. Fulfillment of abomination of desolation prophecy. The abomination of desolation is a phrase that evokes images of a disgusting, destructive force. This prophecy may have been fulfilled during the reign of the Greek ruler Antiochus Epiphanes, also known as the King of the North, who outlawed Jewish worship and erected an altar to Zeus in the temple site in 167 BC. This desecration seems to fulfill Daniel's ominous prophecy of destruction. However, the Roman conquest of Jerusalem in 70 AD, which resulted in the temple's destruction, could also be considered as fulfilling this prophecy. The unfulfilled prophecy of the abomination of desolation. Based on Jesus' teachings in Matthew 24 and the book of Daniel, the fulfillment of the abomination of desolation prophecy is yet to occur. Jesus predicts in Matthew 24 that an abominable desolation will stand in a holy place as a signal of the end times. Additionally, in Daniel 12, the end times are described as the moment when the daily sacrifices ceased and the abomination of desolation is installed. This verse is essential in comprehending the prophecy of the Third Temple's construction. The abomination of desolation prophecy and its incomplete fulfillment. Antiochus Epiphanes' prohibition of sacrifice in the temple partially fulfilled the abomination of desolation prophecy, but Jesus suggested a complete fulfillment yet to come. As Jews no longer practice sacrifice, the prophecy remains incomplete. A future event might reintroduce then abolish sacrifice, defiling the sanctuary and rendering it unclean. The prophecy's fulfillment is a topic of speculation and debate among scholars and religious groups, as its realization remains uncertain. Ezekiel's End Times Temple Prophecy. Ezekiel's prophecy outlines the specifications for building a temple distinct from Solomon's or Herod's projects, indicating that it is yet to be constructed. The vision contains unique features that were absent from previous temple designs. According to belief, this temple will be built during the millennium, a period in which God will dwell with the Israelites forever, and His Spirit will be poured forth on the house of Israel. Believers as spiritual temples and the uncertainty of a third temple. In the New Testament, believers are referred to as spiritual temples, and attempts to construct a third temple have been unsuccessful historically. Israel's claims to Jerusalem and the Temple Mount are not fully recognized by the international community, and Israeli law prohibits Jews from worshiping there. The possibility of a physical temple being built before Jesus Christ's return remains uncertain. Hit the thumbs up button if you like this video, and subscribe to this channel.